Hey.
Hi.
Ah, there's the sound.
Hello.
Hey, how you feeling, Kat?
I'm all better. Yeah, I was better about a week ago. Thank goodness. How about you?
Yeah, still lingering a little bit. It was a doozy, this one.
Goodness, yeah. You sound a little stuffy.
Yeah, just being around kids all the time doesn't help.
Yeah, I have no idea how I got it, but oh well, whatever.
Yeah, stuff going around.
Gavin,
you?
I have you on.
Hey.
I have Gavin on 17 of my lists to email Gavin back, and I apologize that I have not.
It's okay.
I'm impressed you have 17 lists. That's impressive.
Too many lists.
Never
Well,
too
let's-
many.
But
Maybe
yeah, hey,
more.
Gavin. Cool. Cool. Looks like we can get going. Okay. Just get going. 7:02. We'll call to order. I did just get a message from Sam. He's not going to make it tonight. He has a 11-day-old baby at home. So congratulations to Sam. Yeah. So let's see who else we've got though. Looks like Alex
Here.
and Brian. No CT. Eric. We got Kat and myself. Okay.
Yeah, hi, this is CT Hut.
Oh, well, there you are. Hey, CT, you are here.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm cooking dinner. It's going to take me a second to get to my computer.
That is okay. It's that time of night. Did anyone see the minutes from last meeting? I didn't. I couldn't find them.
Oh,
We'll just send a quick message and see if Sam can send those over. Great. It looks like hopefully we're going to have some public comments for non-agenda items tonight. We have Gavin here, and someone looks like someone else is on. Hey. So yeah, we're happy to open up to some comments or questions and ideas.
Yeah, great. So the other person is Rexmat, and he's part of, I guess I would say, our combined comment question. We are well, so most of you know me. My name is Gavin Coombs. I run the Ned Gravel Bike Race and operate a nonprofit here in town called Peak to Peak Endurance, which operates Ned Gravel and Ned and a few other things now, or soon to be coming. Part of that is we have joined forces with Rex, who's here, as I mentioned, as well as Simba, the mountain biking nonprofit based out of Boulder, and then the Nederland Elementary PTA and the Ned Shred program. We have come together to form we came up with a term, community collective of organizations. So we're figuring out exactly what that looks like in terms of organizational stuff. But the purpose of why we got together was to, I guess, replicate the Ned Shred ski program into a mountain biking program that takes place in the spring. So it'd be the same kind of idea as, and for those who aren't familiar with the elementary school shred program, the elementary school takes the entire elementary school to Eldora twice during the winter to ski or snowboard or snowshoe or whatever that the kids want to do. It's for a nominal fee of, it's not nominal, of $55, I believe it is this year. But they get instruction a full day on the slopes, and it's a really excellent program. The kids love it. It's a great partnership with Eldora, and it's a real benefit to our community and to our elementary school. And we wanted to take the positives of that and replicate it with a mountain bike program. As you guys all know, we have an incredible network of trails, both owned by the town and on Forest Service and Boulder County land. And it's a really pretty, impressive network of trails. And we wanted to be able to get the kids out onto that network of trails to to utilize them, to learn that they're there, to just experience the incredible place that we live in. And so we are working together as a group, hopefully to include the town, which is kind of why we're here tonight, as kind of first steps to that, to raise funds to create a bike loaner program. So we're partnering with Simba, who would provide the instructors for this program. And it's not necessarily like a learn how to ride a bike. It's kind of just more experience on the trails for maybe slightly older kids who already know how to ride to some degree or another. And so we would provide bikes for kids who don't have them, which is the majority of kids in the elementary school don't have appropriate bikes to ride on the trails that we have around here. So this bike program would be able to loan these bikes out to the students free of charge, zero charge associated with that. They get a bike and a helmet for the duration of the program, and then would return it. They don't get to keep the bike, but that bike would be used over and over again through the shred program, and then also as part of Simba's programming, where we would be able to loan out a bike to a kid who wanted to participate in the program, whether it's their summer programming or it's their after school programs that they operate in the fall and the spring out of the elementary school. And so those bikes would be, used basically year round, which is a huge asset to the kids, and be able to just provide them a new experience and a way to, like I said, to get out and to experience the just incredible place that we live. So then to kind of explain why we're here, I have worked with Sam a little bit on sort of the mountain biking ideas that he has had, and the town, I think, at least this committee has had, in terms of the pump tracks and the downhill trails on town-owned land and all that. So I had the idea that we should bring this program, this partnership that we've created, to the town, just one, as an informational thing, like, hey, this is going on, want the town to be aware of it, because it is, I think, a really positive thing for the kids in this town. And then also to see if there would be mainly any funding available, where that's kind of the phase that we're in now. We have a budget built out and expenses built out that we can anticipate, and it's fairly heavy on the front end because we are probably going to have to purchase about 30 bikes and helmets. So it's a pretty high budget line item to start, and then actually it's pretty affordable to run on a year-to-year basis. But wanted to just approach this board first to see if there would be possibilities of funding, if there's a way to apply for something, put a proposal together, anything like that. And so yeah, that's basically why we're here tonight.
Sorry if I missed this, Gavin. When you said you'd be offering bikes free of charge, would the whole program be free of charge, or would it be like Med Shred where it costs $55 or something like that?
No, we want to operate this 100% free of charge. Yeah. It is cheaper to work with Simba instructors than it is Eldora instructors. So that's actually a fairly low budget line item. But yeah, absolutely. That's the goal from the start, is to operate it free of charge.
Super cool, Gavin. Thanks for bringing the information, and yeah, really, really happy about what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
it sounds amazing.
I think one more point in there
that Gavin missed is we are working with Caleb at the elementary school to have them start incorporating bicycling as part of the PE program. So that's kind of one of Caleb's goals, is to start folding that in as well.
Gavin, this is something I would love to talk to you more about. Maybe not now, but we got some Bronco funding, and I'm looking at using that Broncos money to work specific programs in town. I'm also trying to do some fundraiser to create a parks scholarship program for kids in town. I never want a kid to not be able to participate, so these are still in idea phase. So I mean, I think I've got the Bronco money, but I'm not. I'm already spending some of it, so
Okay.
yeah, it's definitely something that I see this being an awesome program. Nice ideas.
Yeah, thanks, Nikki. Yeah, that'd be great. Let's chat about that.
Well, yeah, I guess this is probably something we'll have to circle back on, because I mean, PROSAB doesn't have any money. That's one issue. Do you have your finger up, Eric?
Well, that's not quite true. Starting next year, so
Yeah.
things are going to change. But you know, when I'm just thinking about where funding can come from, I'm thinking about, you know, maybe smaller contributions would be possible from the future parks budget, and or the Health and Human Services Fund, which I think, you know, it's appropriate kind of programming for children as it's stipulated in that ordinance. Can be used for children for health purposes, you know, for, you know, recreational activities, I think count, as well as alternative transportation, so things like that. So I think there's money that town can use to help support something like this for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's plenty of grants out there, and what PROSAB has often done in the past is like kind of be a conduit as the governmental agency for organizations to get the funding. So cool. Yeah, I think we all like the idea. It sounds really good idea.
Great. Yeah, we you know, certainly understand that. Yeah, this is we're just here to kind of present the information for you tonight, and we are definitely pursuing a number of grants to fund this, and kind of really leveraging a lot of the contacts we have in the cycling industry. But yeah, we're super excited about it, and I think things are starting to come together. And so, you know, hopefully we can work with the town to make it a reality.
Yeah,
Sweet.
I think for next steps, it might be good to get like a one-pager in writing, and as this board considers its budget for the future, obviously you guys wouldn't be buying the bikes. Well, you need the bikes for the spring, so we have a few months, but it might be helpful to have that in hand as we're getting our house in order with this new kind of influx of funding. I see a hand up from Miranda, so I'll let her talk. But yeah, it just is always helpful to have something concrete.
Well, and I guess
We can
the
definitely
only
do
reason I'd raise my hand is I don't mean this in a bad way, but PROSAB does not have the budget. It's the parks budget. And I don't know if that's a part of our later discussion, because at this time it would be for Nikki to assess how to use those funds. And I'm not sure if maybe the intention is to try to earmark some that PROSAB has to give feedback on, but I just want to be mindful that currently there are no funds dedicated to PROSAB itself.
Right. Cool. We'll keep you in the loop then, Gavin. Hopefully you can come back sometime and maybe we could talk about this more.
Yeah, and I mean, we could definitely put together a one pager that we can get together in the next, I think probably like week or two, and send over to you guys just so you have it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Any other questions for these guys? Yeah, go ahead, Rex. You have your hand up? Oh,
No,
you're
I don't have
muted.
it.
There you go. No.
I don't have any more questions.
I think Jesse's got his
Jesse.
hand up, but it
It's
may be on
Jesse.
mute.
Jesse talking. Yeah.
Yeah, I was muted. Sorry, I'm not on your board, so my comments should probably be limited to 3 minutes, or I'm a public commenter at this point.
Yeah, go for it.
But I spoke with Steve at the coffee shop the other day, and he was talking about, I think, something similar to this, Gavin. I know you're probably talking to Steve, but at the bike shop, Steve Seapack, and we were talking about the use of a space potentially, and we're talking about possibly, well, we're supporting on the BOT, we're supporting we've given an informal nod of support, saying we'd like to see a new food pantry or an evolution on the food pantry, possibly a new building. But one of the things that irritates me a little bit is seeing some of our buildings that we have as town assets sitting vacant or being used as storage, and meanwhile building new buildings. So that's not to say that I wouldn't like to see the food pantry have a new building, but I would like to see our existing infrastructure and buildings occupied. And one of the buildings that I've thought could be really an awesome building to house something like a lot of bikes or some community-based repair stands is the stone building that's behind the community center with the garage door bays on it. And I think that's a really charming building to me, and I don't think it's really been used for anything other than storage of possibly some police equipment. And Steve seemed to think that was a great possible use of that space as well. I haven't talked to Miranda or Dawn or anyone who manages that building or anything like that, so I don't know if it's feasible, but I thought that would be a possibility. That's all I have to say.
Cool. All right. Let's head on into, I thought it was going to be short items, and then items kept getting added. So I guess just to clarify, I wanted to check that last meeting you eliminated the scooter prohibition at the skate park. Is that right? Brian is nodding. Okay, cool.
Well, yeah, that's right. I think we motioned to recommend it to whoever needs to ratify that, but we weren't sure as a board whether we had the authority to actually change those rules unilaterally.
Yeah, I mean, is that something that Nikki, you would do? Looks like we've lost
Yeah,
it.
that was no, I'm here. You got me?
Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, hear you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to leave my camera off. I have satellite and it's not a good
Yeah.
night for that. Yes, that is something that I absolutely would recommend.
Would you have the power to do that, or does that need to go in front of the? Oh, Miranda.
Because it's a town ordinance, I think we'd have to go before the BOT to change the ordinance.
Yes,
Okay.
no, I'm raising my hand to say yes. That has to go before the Board of Trustees, and I will tell you, I don't know if there's a certain timeline you're looking for, but not in the next couple meetings. It's
Okay.
probably something we could bring before the board in late January or February. I would assume there's no urgency since it's winter, but
Yeah.
let me know if you feel otherwise.
Would that require a name?
It would, and ideally a presentation by a PROSAB member, as well as working with, I guess the question is PROSAB directing town staff to work with the town attorney on that ordinance, or do you want to bring it to the Board of Trustees as a discussion item first? My recommendation is skip multiple steps and maybe we go straight to ordinance, unless you're curious how the board feels about this, in which case then bringing it as a discussion has value.
I think we ought to bypass that step if possible.
Okay, so Nikki, let's work with Attorney Madsen on that.
Very good. It sounds like we have a lot of meetings, Miranda.
We do. Let's spend lots of time together.
Yeah, it sounds good.
So I'll
Yeah.
let you, once I can get it on the schedule, we obviously just have some urgent things we need to finish out this year. Once I can get it on the agenda for the Board of Trustees, I will let PROSAB know because of course, would love a collaborative presentation between Nikki and a PROSAB member for that.
A volunteer.
Cool.
Has anybody reviewed that code? Because if we're going to be making one change and in making an ordinance, sometimes if there are other things we need to clean up, we might as well do it because it's kind of a process.
Do you want me to have a look at the code?
Yeah, we'll take a look at it as well. I
Just
mean, I
bring
think
that up as a discussion item in the next meeting.
Yeah, I think a couple of us should look at it just so we know if there's any other messy stuff in there that we need to clean up. We should do it now.
It's such a small, what I'll tell you is I'm going to put it in chat. It's a very, very small section of code. So I agree. Not only is it cleaning up, but is there anything actually, now that I think about it, what I'm sending you is just a portion of code because we just gave the green light to Muni Code to codify the parks regulations. So once I have that, I mean, you can look at what's in code here because I don't feel like we changed anything to the parks, but just email me your feedback because the ordinance is going to have to look different than what's there.
Okay. Thank you. All right, anything else on this? No. Cool. I guess we'll just touch base real quick on just to clarify, the other decision you made was just to kind of move forward with Trustee Severs offering to maintain the connector trail between the community center and is it Jefferson in the return for sign. Some examples including snow shoveling, weed whacking, trimming trees, and I guess exact transactional duties were not detailed out, but that's going to kind of be a pilot program, and then we're going to check back in several months to see how that's going. Does that sound like an accurate summary?
There were discussion about the signage also. You know, any sign put up, it's got to be about the same size. That was detailed in the minutes. Sorry, I don't have those in front.
Do we need to have anything like specific for you, Jesse? Like, are you get like, does there need to be anything like you're gonna snow plow every time it snows over a certain amount of inches, or just gonna?
No, I mean, not in the short run. I intend to not get it totally right, and for us to have some things we can learn and some things we can tweak and improve upon over the next 6 months, and you know, do my best. I just feel self and intrinsically motivated to take good care of that trail, and the sign will be no larger than the existing sign. I think that's what we agreed to. That was a good request from CT, I thought, and
Yeah, go ahead, Miranda.
Yeah, I'm sorry, bear bad news here. I'm just curious about compliance with the sign code. So if there can be further clarification on is this as it's a like for like, otherwise there would need to be a sign application and review in order to ensure compliance with that section of code.
well, it currently says unmaintained trail, and I'd like it to say maintained trail by High Performance Earthworks.
So it's a like for like change. Okay.
It's not an additional sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and it depends on what you mean by like for like. I think we're talking about size like for like, but the content of the sign.
No, that's what I meant. It was like size and that there wasn't going to be anything substantially different language wise. I mean, I understand going from unmaintained to maintain, but if there was going to be additional language, I just want to make sure we don't run into any issues with sign code.
Well, I think the proposal here is that there's going to be sort of some adopt a trail language with sponsored by Jesse's business.
Okay.
So I guess let's take a little look at the sign, review the sign code real quick too, make sure it's all falling within that purview.
Maybe we should do a review of the exact wording. You know, Nikki and I can make a proposal, and you guys can wordsmith it if you like, or.
I mean, that sounded fine what you said.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Me too.
but whether we agree with it or whether the code agrees with it is obviously not the same. So we just have to make sure that nobody can call us out on a infringement of code.
Right.
Okay.
And regarding this, is there interest, Jesse, in having kind of a statement of value for what you're donating to town?
Right.
I don't have any interest other than, you know, people seeing my business name and then doing the maintenance. I don't know.
Because I do think we should, it might be not a bad idea to do the same kind of thing we did for Adopt a Bench, write up a policy that town staff can use for Adopt a Trail, and then put a monetary value on trail maintenance per 100 feet of trail or something along those lines. And then when people adopt a certain section of trail, they can either pay that amount or maintain it.
That would be
I
a
think
good.
the goal was to not write a formal policy at this point and have it just be a pilot by Jesse with some warnings and a formal policy to come in 6 months or so. That, am I misstating our intention from the last meeting?
No,
And whether that's permissible is a separate issue, but that's what we kind of aligned on at the last meeting.
I think we should do these two things simultaneously. It's going to take a while to write it up, let Jesse adopt the trail ASAP, get him maintaining it, and then write the policy alongside that process as we learn from it.
I think it would be a useful data point to collect, Jesse, if it's something you could just kind of keep track of. But I don't want to in any way slow you down.
Okay. Well, I'm realizing I could probably get my first chance tomorrow morning. I'll get the snow shovel going.
It's likely.
It's time.
Yeah.
Feel free just to spray paint your name on the sign right now until we.
No, I'm not going to do that.
I think
we did also discuss the other sign on the trail, removing the crapping dog cartoon. The sentiment's fine. The delivery leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sign was not put up by anyone on town staff at all. I have no idea where that sign came from.
Unauthorized sign on town property, exactly the type of thing
That's right.
we just discussed. We need to get rid of. So
maintenance. It sounds like a maintenance task.
Absolutely.
I'm
Great.
on it.
I look forward to
Thanks,
walking
Jesse.
that trail this weekend.
Yep, you'll have a good trail this weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I guess while you're still here,
Yes.
if there's any other questions on that, we can go ahead and ask those. Otherwise, we'll move on to a bit of the recap of your the bike park or bike trails discussion.
Yeah, great. Thanks. So I made that offer of the value for building some bike terrain, and meanwhile, there's, Sam has really been kind of our champion with rallying support, and because I sort of spread the rumor that I would do the work, but I didn't want to do all the meetings, and then ironically I ended up joining the BOT before I could do the work. And I was encouraging the community, I guess, to meet me with a show of support that it's actually something that is desirable. And then, I'd be happy to do the work. And so I made the formal statement, a little while ago. But before that, Sam had kind of stepped forward and said, "Yeah, I'll be the champion and work with you on this, help galvanize support." And he rounded up a group of 8 to 10 folks or so. There was a youth advisory board. Nikki was there. Gavin was there, who presented earlier. Steve Seapak, NATO from the Netherlands Trails. And so the first stop we made was, we were looking at some possible spots. And the first stop we made was at Chipeta Park. And Nikki had a recommendation that we, try to do a pump track there at Chipeta Park. And my my value offer does not cover, you know, the install cost or the design or my expertise really of a pump track. However, I still think it's an awesome thing, and everybody there was very much in support. And there was an effort to get the pump track down on Gersio Field a long time ago, or a while ago, I guess, and it kind of got shot down. And you know, with the thing with NedFest and the greenhouse that went in down there, and it was kind of caught in the crossfire, I think, of just a perfect storm, and the momentum was lost. But Nikki kind of brought it back and said, well, hey, look, this could happen here at Chipeta Park instead. And there's a spot there at Chipeta Park that could work out really well. So then Sam and I, after chatting, somehow we ended up making contact with Velo Solutions, who's sort of the industry standard on pump tracks, and they've set like a pump track is like a basketball court these days. Like there's official lines and you know, a certain height of the rim, for example. There's certain specs on how it's done properly, and this Velo Solutions they're the ones who essentially invented it, and they're a worldwide company that all they do is pump tracks. And they actually happened to be down in Denver, or some representatives, when I reached out to them. They were doing a grand opening at a new one that went down below somewhere. And so they were able to swing through Nederland after their event. And we showed them Chipeta Park. And so we met with one of the parks, Brian from Nikki's department, and the two reps from Velo Solutions, and then Sam and myself. And it went really well. And they thought that the spot that Nikki had picked out was really great and would work really well. And we talked to him about some of the sustainability concerns and ethics and values that we have here in Nederland. And, you know, I kind of wanted to ask them about some of their drainage management philosophy and things of that nature, because that's stuff I care about as an earthworking professional. So that's sort of the history of where this current topic has kind of come back to the surface. And Sam and I were basically going to go to PROSAB to try to get, so the other thing I did is I had Velo Solutions send us an engineering proposal to do a full concept design. And that's going to have soils analysis, you know, topographical stuff, and they'll end up with a big printout of the concept drawing of our theoretical pump track. And that costs money. It's a design feature, and these guys specialize in this, and it's all they do. And they sent me a proposal. It's, I believe, $14,000. So, which is a little pricey, but it's not it's not unreasonable in terms of an engineering project of this size to do it with all the detail that would require for it to be properly built. And so with Sam and I were going to go to the DDA and ask for them to give us $15,000 to fund for the engineering, and then we take that and we fundraise with it. And then, as you guys know, last meeting I was talking to you about a separate project, which would just be building a small section of trail that would have some berms and jumps and flowy air, you know, basically purpose-built bicycle terrain on some Nederland property that I could just build a small sample of what's being done all over the nation and the world, really, within the mountain biking industry. So those are basically two parallel tracks that, you know, being on the BOT, I have the opportunity to chat with Miranda on occasion and say, hey, and then and other BOT members and you all as well, and say, hey, how can we just get something done? Because me being in earthworking, I am used to getting things done. However, we always like to have a good plan in place. So, you know, I realize that good planning is all part of it. But I didn't know how much, you know, how to get something done, I guess, essentially is really what it comes down to. I would like to do the work, but how to get it done is not so easy when it comes to town government. And so Miranda said, well, really, if you want it to get done, you need to run it all through the Nederland planning process, which is essentially our Nederland government way of getting public participation and buy-in, and also having the public, just give their input to the final product. And so that is essentially just going before every board with the idea, and then integrating the feedback and the input, and then ending up with a public hearing and a proposal to the BOT that the BOT then gets to say yes or no, or yes and. So that's what I'm doing now, because I thought, okay, that sounds fine. If we can do the Nederland planning process throughout the course of the winter, maybe we could be ready by spring to build something awesome, whether it's a pump track or a little section of flow trail, or both, ideally in my mind. So yeah, that's the long and short of it. That's the history, and brings us right up to the present. And here we are. So I think this, if I could get credit for this being the first stop at the Nederland planning process, then I wouldn't have to come back to you guys and work this over anymore until we go to the BOT. And we could possibly even consider our last meeting having already done that, and then we roll from there. So I don't know really where we're at. Maybe Miranda, you want to kind of tell me how I got that wrong, or
you didn't. It was perfect. But what I'll add, here's what I will add is, so code does indicate for kind of a public asset like this, like a recreational asset, but there needs to be a public hearing. And I think in an effort to not bring it to the board, for it to be referred back to boards and commissions, because that's likely, because we do have a Nederland planning process. That's why I recommended that to Jesse. He can get before all the boards between now and December 14th. So over just a handful of weeks, we can get it through that process. And then by the time it goes to the board, there will be documentation that it's run through all the boards and commissions. And now we're just having a public hearing to determine the kind of final approval of the Board of Trustees. And a public hearing is required before any building permits can be issued for any sort of outdoor recreational facility.
So you're going to do the public hearing or the planning process for them both simultaneously, the Chipeta one and the Joe Smith adjacent
That was
one?
the thought. That was my recommendation, was like, no reason to do it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also and we were kind of, when Miranda and I were discussing it, we weren't 100% if we could just give Jesse permission to go build a flow trail or not. And so we were saying, well, when in doubt, we might as well, since you're already making a stop at all those board meetings anyways, just try to work them both in there together and just run them both at the same time through the process.
Because that's my question. I liked what you were saying at the last meeting about placing flags and signs at the location with contact information for people to reach you, and then just Nikki's suggestion of going door to door and just making sure you connect with all the stakeholders and neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think. I think. Oh, sorry.
Can I ask a question? I rarely pop in on these meetings. It's been since I retired.
We do typically have like a little time for public comment, but yeah, go ahead and ask your question. And please introduce yourself.
This came across me on my email today, and that bike park, it says it's north of Joe Smith Park, which is right across the street from where I live. And how far north exactly? Where is it? Because there's a lot of people that might be concerned, going down the school road, or where this area is. Everybody answer that? Yeah.
I don't know that there's
I'm not sure we're quite at that point to be able to answer those kinds of questions. Sorry, Kat, do you want to finish your thought?
What's that?
I'm not quite sure we can maybe answer the exact location yet. We're just kind of putting together the plan for stakeholder like communication with the neighbors.
Yeah, because I've been very into the town a long time ago. I've been a past town trustee, early 2000s, head of Parks and Rec when it was being built, scout leader for 8 years. So when I see something like this come across, I'm going to be there if it's in the wrong place, and I can get a lot of people together. I want it to be done properly in the right location. If it's going to be done Mud Lake area, that's not good, because bikes in Mud Lake, I say most of the people are okay riding their bikes. 20% will run you off the road in a second. And a bike park around that area, it's going to be bad news. So I needed to get that across to you. But if you haven't got to that point, just be aware. Go around this neighborhood. And so just to let you know, what the heck's a pump track? What is that?
Yeah, exactly. Could you share your email and maybe your contact information so Sam and Jesse and some of these subcommittee members could maybe get in touch with you and talk in more detail sometime?
Sure.
That would be really useful.
So how do you want me to get it to you?
Do you want,
tell you now, or?
Yeah, or maybe if you could put your email in chat here, or you could email us, the whole board, or any other ideas?
Yeah.
I can write it down.
Okay.
Do that. Make sure you're part. I'm pretty sure that's kind of a big deal, is to make everyone sure that they're part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Uh,
my email is Ned Runner, NE Runner, RUNNER at CenturyLink.net.
Got it.
And so it's the first time I've been concerned about anything for quite a while, but just happened to pop up. Sure, I know what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's
totally understandable.
all I popped in here for. So appreciate your time.
No, thank you, John. We appreciate the feedback, and we'll definitely link you in with these discussions.
Yeah, sure.
Just the beginning.
Okay. Bye now.
Kat, I know you were in the middle of a thought too, and CT.
Yeah, so I think I missed last meeting, so I'm like trying to get back up in the loop here. It sounds like my question may have been somewhat answered with the discussion with John, but I was curious, like, it sounds like the idea is to, I guess my question is if this is sort of the one time that PROSAB is going to be sort of offering thoughts on this particular idea, or is there going to be another time down the road? Because it's like, I think like they sound like really fun and interesting ideas. But I think I'd want to know a little bit more detail about sort of what is being proposed, right? Before sort of offering thoughts on that. So I guess that's my question. This is my first time sort of being on this side of a town process, so that might be addressed further down the line. But I guess that's my question, is like this the time, or will there be a plan in writing with like specs and budget and specifics and all that sort of thing coming back to PROSAB at some point?
Well, the pump track would, but not the flow trail per se, because I would be donating my time, and I've offered a value of essentially $25,000 of billable hours that I wouldn't be fulfilling a contract for a customer. I would be dedicating my team and my equipment and expertise to building a great trail. And I have talked to various before I was on the BOT, I had talked and made contact with staff, some of the staffers in the public works department, and there was enthusiasm, and they said we could probably donate some dirt. So that could be a contribution from the town, just dirt. I could move it, or town could move it to the site, but dirt would also help. So that would be a material asset that could be contributed by the town as a match, and we could put a value on that for sure. And yeah, I put the terms of basically what I was offering in for the flow track in there, but the pump track is a different thing. It's an asphalt, just to tell you all really fast, it's an asphalt track. There's one down at Valmont Bike Park in Boulder, and it basically has undulating curves, and it can be ridden by wheelchairs, skateboards, scooters, bicycles. Beginners and experts can all have a great time on it. And it's a great way to basically just develop basic bicycling skills, or if you get really good, you can still have a great time on it. And Nikki was kind of inspired by that spot because she sees little kids down there on balance bikes on the basketball court pretty regularly. And so it's a great kind of transitionary stepping stone for the kids to just work on their balance bikes on the basketball court on a flat paved surface, and then they could advance to a purpose-built pump track. So the pump track would definitely be a more long-term project. It could probably come back before the PROSAB a couple times, because there would be I'm just trying to get the design budget approved right now, and or just support. I'll still come up with the money, but I don't want to do a bunch of work to come up with the money and find donors and fundraise, and then have the BOT say, we changed our mind, we don't want to do that anymore. Or even to invest that money in a great so yeah, I think the short answer is we would come back to you more times. Yeah.
I think that any board, whether it's the BOT or PROSAB, is going to need kind of something to respond to that's not just a conversation. So like a document with a map of where the proposed thing is going to go, and what the proposed timelines might be, and what the proposed budget for planning, and then maybe even a draft budget for construction, that kind of stuff, so that when we have these conversations, we know we're talking about the same thing. So I think that would be a useful exercise for any of the conversations that you're going to end up having with any of these other boards, Jesse. And I know that some of it you just don't know yet. And that's probably even a useful thing to put into such a document, is to say, there's a bunch of these things that are big TBDs. And to address concerns like the one that John brought up, you could say, like, here's a map of this particular neighborhood, and this is what we're thinking about, but this is all subject to community discussion and approval and all that kind of stuff.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suppose coming before you now is my way of trying to reduce the amount of times that I have to swing blind in the dark in terms of what's going to be approved, and to get input now before we bring it into more focus and definition. So the more we can have it be where I'm gathering your input before I've put the flags down. But John, last meeting we were talking about that I would go and put flags down and put up a sign to solicit feedback, and
right,
say this is where we're thinking this would be. What do you think?
Yeah, that'd probably be a really good idea, to get it out there so people see where it's going to be. More information you have before you go to the town of trustees, the better. So whatever you get, and particularly if it's in this area, to let everybody know, or let me know, and I can let them know,
Yeah. So the pump track engineering, I have that proposal in writing, so you know exactly what you're paying for.
But it's,
And
I think, yeah, with the Joe Smith Park, it's the the neighbors that people are going to want to maybe see a conceptual image of or something to kind of get a feel of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think I may have missed something, but I haven't seen a proposal for the pump track. So.
no, I haven't shared that engineering
Oh,
document.
gotcha. You say you have it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
I
I think
for a while, so.
like in general, we on the PROSAB level have kind of talked about these things a bunch, and I think we have general in principle support of moving forward with the process is to like actually go through and formalize plans and formalize the stakeholder engagement and really figure out what this thing would look like. But I think that this stage, PROSAB can't say, yes, we definitely approve of anything you might do in the future, just because we don't, as Kat pointed out, we don't know what the details and specifics are. So depending on kind of what level of, yes, we support you, you're looking for right now, I think that we could probably say, yes, we support moving forward with planning, but I don't think we could say, yes, we support you with moving forward with doing the construction and that kind of stuff yet.
And I think that's one of the risks you take with these things. You could put a lot of energy into it and people could vote it down. I think that's kind of the risk of putting yourself out there and offering these things.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's kind of also why I was looking for a co-champion, so that I could at least have one other person who would most likely be in favor of it. And Sam has been doing that, but he just had a baby, so he's a little preoccupied. So I need Brian, you to stand in as Sam's.
I don't have the amount of energy that guy has, but yeah, we just got to get that kid to grow up real fast so Sam gets some time back on his hands.
That's not the way it works.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think, yeah, we all definitely appreciate deeply all of the work and energy and passion that you're putting into this. So I think, I mean, I can only speak for myself, I suppose, but I'm definitely excited to see this move forward. And, you know, also just, yeah, I think details will come, and we're excited to see those for sure. So.
Yeah, and I think you're doing all the right things. You're engaging with the right other folks. And I think that is the type of thing that would form part of this document. And essentially, you're making an argument to all these different boards that you're talking to. So, like, we think that this is valuable for these reasons, and we already have this list of 14 other major stakeholder groups that agree with us. So that when time comes for you to face potential opposition, that you might have a little bit of weight behind you for making your argument.
Yeah.
We need people like John, who obviously heard about it, to keep stepping up and to keep giving that feedback. That's going to be vital. So.
Yeah, that way we know what the problems are going to be right away and can address them early on in the process rather than have to address them in front of the BOT. I think that's the way to go, to have a project that everybody is okay with and present something easy to represent to the BOT. It's not a, opposition.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm in favor of pursuing both of these projects. I'd like to see both of them done. That $14,000 is a lot, but I think I think you should gauge the rest of the boards and gauge the BOT on whether or not to pursue fundraising for that. And then if all the boards and the BOT even are interested, then maybe we can help out. But for the I'm personally in favor of both of these projects moving forward.
Same time, like $14,000 is not a lot. Like the last time
I know.
they proposed the pump track down at Gershio, that one was $150,000.
Well,
there's a difference between the building costs and the planning costs. I think the $14K that Jesse's talking about is
just planning,
doing the engineering.
Just
plan.
planning.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, just a drawing, basically, a very expensive drawing.
Okay.
It's a narrative. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that drawing is going to be necessary to getting this done and getting it approved. So, if it feels like everybody is in favor of there being a pump track at Chipeta Park as a general concept. I think that's the that has been described. Are we generally, up for the idea of there being a pump track in Chipeta Park? I think that's what Jesse needs to know to continue with fundraising for the plans.
And go to the DDA and talk to them, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine for me to just make a stop at every board, and I'll take your feedback and say, okay, I'm going to put a little more presentation together. Sam and I have a presentation started. I have a little video of some kids in John's neighborhood saying they'd love a pump track, and yeah, I've started to put some of those things together. So I just don't have it ready right now. I do in a crude format, but I'll not share it with you. We're just talking.
Miranda?
I'm just wondering then, just for clarification, is the desire that Jesse still gets started with the MPP process or come back to PROSAB with a clear, I guess I'm just to get the other board agenda set. Are you giving him the green light to start having those conversations? Or do you want to see this one more time before he starts that?
I can tell you what I think we agreed just now is that we're giving Jesse the green light to continue having these conversations with other boards. But before we give the green light for the project itself, we need to look at the finer grain details of it all.
Okay.
And but Miranda, you know way better than I do about what this process looks like. If you think that seems like an appropriate set of different green lights, then
yeah, and I guess maybe I should have been clearer. I think, Jesse, one of my concerns for you is you're going to get the same feedback from the other boards and commissions. And so I would hate to have you do this twice. Like, I'd almost rather see this come back before PROSAB in December and then you start the NPP.
Everyone's going to want to know precisely where this thing is
Right.
going to be. To move forward in a conversation, we have to say yay or nay to something. Like, conceptually, yes. Good ideas. We want to see more biking, but like without a tangible map that people can look at, it's going to be very hard for people to form an informed opinion about this, including PROSAB. Although, outdoor activities, outdoor sports, integrating community, connecting different areas, we're all for that. But we're still lacking a visual representation of what we'd be saying yes to. That's what we need.
I mean, there's a lot of open space town property, and so I don't really care where it goes. I think I just want to know that you guys would like to see it done anywhere. And
well, we do. I mean, you've got that. I think you've got that. I think we need to, but to move it forward, like there has to be, people will have to know like where. And I think everyone seemed to agree last meeting to explore that area around the north of the Joe Smith Park area, but we just don't know specifically where that is.
Well, it's John and CT's backyard essentially. It is public land, but you guys are both care more about that particular little acreage than probably the most everyone else in town, because it's right there. It's like one of your greatest assets. So I would like to engage you guys in that exploration if possible, because you guys are, primary stakeholders for that particular location. But if it just seems like it's not a good spot for it, I personally think it is. But if it doesn't seem to carry water with the neighborhood, I don't want to lose the whole project.
Can I propose this as a next step? And then we can kind of move on with the agenda. So John, thanks for giving us your email address earlier. Is it okay if Jesse contacts you and CT and you guys arrange a date where you can go out and like walk the land that we're talking about, and Jesse can hear directly from you, John, about what your concerns might be, and then we can decide then if this is like a viable opportunity or whether we might need to rethink what the location could be.
Hey, that'd be great. That'd be great. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
I'd be happy to do it. My support for this whole thing was based on the understanding that that area would be, this would be part of a larger kind of certification of that area, which we're provisionally calling the Tammy Forest Open Space, that it remain open space and parkland. Just to give you an idea, John, of kind of where my head was at in terms of my backing this. I think making sure that area is preserved as open space and is accessible to the public should be part of this conversation. Nikki too had brought up some good points about kind of designating a recreation corridor through that area, connecting to the various trails out by the school and the ice court and tennis courts.
Right. So go door to door, get some like real neighbor feedback, and then we'll have something more to work on.
I think we even talked about like a sign with a QR code with a little website where folks could give comments or something. I think it's easier to pick that spot and make sure the community's engaged rather than try to like triage a bunch of different spots around town and see which one works. If there is significant resistance or good reasons not to go there, then we can talk about another spot, but it seems logical to pick one at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I could tell you the sooner the neighbors up here become a part of the conversation, the more likely this is to be approved or not.
Right. Rather than feeling like we had a whole bunch of conversations before without even engaging them. Like John, showing up today and saying, hey guys, listen to me, because that's a really good indication of more to come. And yeah, good point, CT.
One like real quick question too, Jesse. Your offer is like an expiration date? Is that for the completion of the trail, or would that be the part of BOT acceptance?
No, I mean that's just on there just because I just figured I should put it on there just to kind of create a little bit of a sense of, hey, I could change my mind, or
I mean, it's just to help keep it push it forward.
I can renew it and extend it. I just put it on there as like some way to get us to think in terms of trying to move something forward.
You can see, you can see how like all this stuff just takes so long.
Yeah. So how to get something done? This is what my experiment is kind of going right now. But I'm enjoying it. I think that's I think the really clutch part about all this, and I think for government and participation to be sustainable is for us to try to have a little bit of a good time with it all on occasion. And
I'd agree with that.
Do we have any further direction for Trustee Sievers on this, or questions? I mean, do you feel like you've got some good next steps?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me talk.
Thank you, John. Thank you for coming.
John. Thank you for your joining the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll keep you involved.
Okay. I know.
Thanks all.
Thank you. So unless there's any other questions, we've just got some updates on the fee schedule and budgets. Shall I turn that over to Eric or Miranda, Nikki, maybe? Whoever wants to take it.
Well, in the last BOT meeting, we had another discussion about the budget, and this one came with the discussion of the 3 tax increase ballot measures that all passed by a landslide. Which good job, everybody.
Well done.
Very much crucial for our town that happened for many reasons beyond parks. But yeah, that 5% marijuana sales tax increase was earmarked, or not earmarked, but there was an allocation made for parks as part of that, and it hasn't been passed yet. But it is looking like the board directed town staff to draft that ordinance such that it created a new parks fund. and that at least 51% of that 5% marijuana sales tax increase will be allocated to that parks fund each year. And so we're looking at something in the range of, correct me if I'm wrong, Miranda, but I think it was something in the range of $65,000 per year from the tax if it were allocated at 5149. But of course, that allocation could change by the Board of Trustees year on year.
Right. So what I will say, yes to all of that. What I will say is you're not going to see that in the budget that's adopted on December 6th or the public hearing on 11/29, because it takes a while to set up a fund, right? We need to have these resolutions. We need to determine the split. And so what we plan to do is a supplemental budget in Q1 just to make this official, but I just don't want anyone to panic when you don't see it in the budget. Everything Eric outlined is the intention of town. We just need to make sure we're doing it the right way, and that's why we don't want to rush it in the final hour right now. But what our proposal is that the marijuana, portion of the marijuana funds get allocated to this fund, as well as the revenue from rink and mountain tennis pickleball, and that the expenditures are things like parks and trails maintenance, vehicles, equipment, and there was one more, but only a handful of things that would come out of this fund so that the fund could also build over time. We don't want to put every expense line item in this fund. We want it to be your $10,000+ expenses. And so, if there's $100,000 and Nikki only uses 40, that 60 is going to roll over for larger scale projects. And that's exactly how the streets fund works. And so there's value in structuring it that way. So again, you're also not going to see a significant amount of expenditures. My recommendation was only 4 line items move over with the fund. And I can pull those, I can find those and share those, what the recommendation is.
Yeah, that's great, Miranda. I mean, I do think that it is absolutely fair and normal that expenses are transferred to the fund as well as revenues, because parks expenses have been coming out of the general fund for quite some time. But obviously, salaries will probably still come out of the general fund and not out of the parks fund for parks employees. And most things, those materials, vehicles, equipment, maintenance, that will come out of this new parks fund, but that's only logical.
Right. And prior to the approval of the marijuana fund, I know you, and I wasn't here, but we had talked about it, right? That we had like nothing budgeted for trails, sidewalk maintenance, and we were asking that we pull from Conservation Trust Fund for that line item. Well, the nice thing about a parks fund is that we can put the money back in trails, sidewalk, and maintenance, leave Conservation Trust Fund alone to be a funding arm for future grants or other things. And so that's why I wrote, this should be increased, and Nikki is pulling from this versus the Conservation Trust Fund. So everyone can rest assured that what we budgeted under Conservation Trust Fund will move back into this trail sidewalk maintenance, so that there's an actual budget, and it doesn't look like we've budgeted only a couple $1,000s to one of the number one expense that Nikki has.
Right.
For that clarity.
Yeah.
My question was why only 51%? I know it was,
It's a minimum.
I know
It's a
that's
minimum.
non-binding.
It's a minimum.
What?
It's a minimum. So a minimum
yeah,
of 51%. It's pretty standard. So because it needs to, we need to ensure that we are actually matching the Tabor ballot language so that we don't get challenged in court. The Tabor ballot language called out parks and other lawful municipal services. And so if we allocate a minimum 51% to parks, 49% to potentially to other lawful municipal services, then we are complying with that Tabor ballot language. And I suspect that as the years go on here, and maybe even this year, we'll see that more than 51% will be allocated to the Parks Fund. And that's just something that's going to change year on year, depending on what the DOT's priorities are and what emergency situations we have in town.
Thank you for the explanation.
I was going to ask more or less the same thing. Thank you.
Yep. And to also keep in mind, the reason why we have that flexibility built into that taper language was because we were trying to pass 3 taxes at once, which is kind of unheard of in town. And if one of those did not pass, then we would need a lot more flexibility on the other ones. And so that's why that flexibility was built into that taper language. But I think in the long term, it's probably a smart thing to do, seeing as there's so much overlap between our departments, between public works, various departments, streets, parks, utilities. There's a lot of overlap there. So the idea that it would be sequestered in a parks fund, no matter what, even if it didn't need it, is a bit silly.
Yeah, I think the average voter, if they read that language, would probably guess more than 51% is going. I know we're doing at least the legal minimum, but just I'm curious if there'll be any public blowback or whatever when they realize, oh, this thing that sounded like it was going to really go to the parks is only 51%. But I understand there's other priorities, et cetera, et cetera.
I'll be pushing at least for a high allocation to parks this year.
Yeah, you all seemed a lot more open to the idea of funding parks as opposed to this time a year ago. The adopt a bench fees, it sounds like all went through. Which
there was a little confusion, I think, just because as staff we unfortunately weren't here. So the way it was presented to the board. Sorry, I have to keep my camera off because I have a delay.
Sorry, a little lag. Yeah.
Do you want to go, Eric?
Oh, that's a long delay, Miranda. I didn't realize. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. You go.
No. Sure. I was just going to say that the $500 for a single plaque on a single bench was put on the fee schedule and was reviewed, but the $250 for a multi bench and purchase a bench fee weren't there. I brought up, and they're going to be put back on there, but no trustees had any problems with any of that. Nobody protested at all. So I have a feeling those will go through no problem.
Yeah, and you'll see, so we'll release the budget tomorrow on our website for the public hearing. And so it'll be what we believe to be the final draft budget plus the fee schedule. And I actually literally just looked at it, and what Eric just said is in fact on, and you'll see it in red on the fee schedule. So agreed, but what was presented Tuesday night unfortunately did not have all components. So that has been corrected.
Will those fees go to the new Parks Fund specifically? And
so currently we don't have it set up that way. We have it, that would just go back to the general fund if that's an interest to pull that apart as a revenue for the Parks Fund. That's fine. That can absolutely be done. Again, I think as we build the Parks Fund in January, February, these are things we're really going to want to look at is like what of the revenue line items should be going towards that Parks Fund.
Yeah, that is, I think, an important thing to have in the works as we're putting this all together, as it is, as we've discussed several times, the point of a bench donation.
Well, the key thing here is that the Parks Fund is created in the same ordinance that allocates, not allocates, but that passes the tax, right? So it's created in the same ordinance that ensures technically the Parks Fund. Sorry.
I'm stopping your video, Eric, because it's getting a little weird.
Okay.
And maybe that will help.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you want to repeat that last bit?
So the idea.
Yeah, no.
Sorry,
Eric, not getting you.
All right, can you hear me now? No.
Yes.
I'm just trying to say that the ordinance that creates the tax also creates the Parks Fund. That ordinance has not been passed, so technically there is no Parks Fund. And the Parks Fund will only come into full creation in first quarter of next year when we pass the supplemental budget. And so as it stands right now, it's just a slow process of allocating those revenues to the fund once it actually exists, because we can't allocate revenues to a fund that doesn't exist. So it's all kind of suspended in the air at the moment, but it will all get sorted out within the next 4 months or so.
Great.
Thank you, CT. Good question. Anything else on this? I guess my only other question was, Nikki, what is the Bronco funding?
Yeah.
Miranda, do you know the name of it exactly? But we've got money that came from the sale of the Broncos.
So it's called the Metropolitan Stadium Fund, and town received 21,000 and some change. But it's earmarked for, and I can send the approval letter to you all, but it's earmarked for youth programming. And so one of the asks of the Board of Trustees at one point in a public meeting was, do you want to just give this to a youth organization, or do we want to have it be a part of the Parks Fund? And the feeling was, let it be a part of the Parks Fund, since Nikki had provided some really great ideas of programming that she could do within the Parks Department.
Use it to buy some bikes.
Buy some bikes. Yeah, I know. I heard that.
Yeah, we can't buy like actual, like I can't buy footballs for football.
Yeah.
But
I was merely
one of
making a call back to the person who spoke earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite ideas, I just want to tell you guys really fast, is to do a junior firefighter and EMS training with the fire department, and that is happening. It's already in the works between Parks Department and the fire department. So kids will have the opportunity over a week-long course to learn basic EMS first aid, CPR training, and learn about firefighting in our area.
That's amazing. I love it.
Cool. Any other questions, I guess, is for budget? Okay, I'm sure we'll revisit this. Trails Master Plan. So we held a special session on November 2nd. Thank you everyone for coming. CT, maybe I should turn this over for you and you can summarize maybe some of the key findings. And then we're gonna...
Sure.
And then I guess we're just going to discuss the offer from the students.
We haven't, at least I haven't spent a lot of time analyzing the data that we compiled, but we brought together all the individual Google Sheets we had been working on and kind of collectively tagged them with kind of rough categories. There was a lot, just like general trends I noticed, there was a lot of discussion about accessibility. The kind of repeated call for a new trail that I had seen that came up very, very often was something from town to the high school. But I think we should, before I draw too many broad conclusions, we should kind of look at the data a little bit more closely. And to wit, some volunteers from CU had offered to kind of look at the current trails system and the feedback and come up with some recommendations for us. And there was some discussion as to what it would look like to take them up on that, as we, the Parks Board, imagine, would still want to be very much involved in the process.
Yeah.
Should we ask
And
Nikki
did we, oh, sorry, there was a good summary. Alex, was it you that put together the summary? Like, there was like a list of all the stuff, but then like the top 10
Yeah.
or whatever. I'm not sure if that was, maybe that was shared with everybody, but if not, I think that's a really helpful thing to look at. And that's probably what we'll initially want to share with the student group, as along with a bunch of other things as well. But
yeah, I think Brian maybe had sent it. Did you send it to town with the spreadsheet, Brian, or is that something that we still need to do?
No, I didn't forward it to anyone.
Okay.
But it still exists in the same place where you put it originally, I think, Alex.
Yes, I'm looking at it right now. I can share it with everyone. I don't know if it needs to be shared like, I don't want to break core off. So I don't know if it needs to be shared with someone broader than this group, but yeah.
Because I think one of the conversations we had at the time was waiting on whether or not we did get those two students who would be helping with this, is like basically handing them this data and then in a light touch way getting them started on what they need to do and then backing away and letting them do their stuff.
Even if we didn't approve of what they end up coming out with, it'd be great to get some outside eyes, some volunteers on it. I think, although and it's not like we'd lose the data. We could still make our own interpretations and look at it ourselves. But if some eager volunteers want to get involved, I think it would be worth letting them take a crack at it.
And I was really curious, like, I don't know if the conversation has already been had with the student group, like, what's the outcome that they're kind of committed to? So that's the thing I was curious to talk about with this group, or hear from Miranda or Nikki or whoever's spoken to the students.
Yeah, so it was just kind of vague. It was like a prospectus.
Yeah, the email that I sent you guys Tuesday night, I think it was the last communication that I've had with them. Kat, I know you have some interest. I would love for you to be part of those initial conversations and try and clarify exactly what it is we as well, you all as PROSAB would like for them to do and what their ideas of how to get that done are.
Do you think they would, are they, I guess my kind of question is, are they offering to produce the master plan, or is it kind of a formal document that would outline what needs to be done to create the master plan?
That's a good question. Miranda, do you have an answer to that? Because I am not clear on that part either.
I actually don't, and I guess I'm just wondering if there's value in, a champion from PROSAB joining us in a future meeting with you, me, Dylan, to get more clarification.
I think they must have had to submit a document to get it approved from their advisors, so they must have put together some sort of proposal.
Right.
Yeah.
But Pat, if you're interested in helping, I'm also happy to help. If we need one of us, if we need two of us, I'll throw my name in. But
I feel like if it's okay in terms of meeting stuff, I would love if both of us could, but I'd love to be involved.
I'd also be interested in seeing this through.
Yeah. I think when it comes down to it, we'll all be involved because they'll be coming up and hanging out and visiting with all of us. So I imagine they will be coming to a PROSAB meeting or two, and maybe we'll see how it works. But I definitely I would love to have the both of you or whoever involved in the initial conversations and make sure I loop you in scheduling.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And sounds like either Alex or CT.
Is it worthwhile to get them scheduled to come? I don't know if December works with their like semester schedule, but maybe
Yeah, it sounds like it. They want, because they want a draft for January 12th.
Wow.
And then the final
They
version
have to have their project turned in by the 19th.
19th of
It's my
January.
birthday.
So that's one more. Yeah, that's not the next PROSAB meeting, but the next PROSAB meeting after that is their final draft. So
wow.
Of the prospectus. So that, I guess that is just an outline of what it would be. Because
of the plan itself, like of what they will do.
That's what I'm
That
guessing.
makes sense. Okay.
I think there's no disadvantage in us sharing what we've collected with those who are interested. And if they're working on a deadline, I'm fine letting them check it out.
Yeah, I think let's find out a little bit more about what their outcomes might be, what they're sort of up for. If they have if they have a vision of what this might look like once they're done with it, and then what they need sort of to go forward. And then probably like at some point, I don't know exactly how the timing will work, but I would imagine like they should present that prospectus to this board, right, for thoughts and feedback.
And I guess to share with them the prior two trails master plans, and then all the information that we've got, the statistics, and then say, you know, this is what we're looking for, an update of this, but with this information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm happy to volunteer. We have their emails. I'm happy to volunteer to email, to CC everyone here and email them and their advisors and copy and provide prior drafts of master plans, the data, the summary of themes, and provide our meeting date for December, propose that. If that doesn't work for them, maybe we can set up a separate time. Does that sound like a good first step?
That sounds
Thank
great.
you. That sounds great.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Nikki, Miranda, that works for you guys?
Yeah, go for it.
Great.
It's
Alex,
totally fine. They were going to reach out to me, but I haven't heard back from them. So please feel free to take the lead on that.
Okay.
Alex, do you have all the documents you need?
I might need the spreadsheet, the combined spreadsheet. I think that's the
Okay.
only thing I don't have.
Awesome.
So CT, if you have that and you can share it with me, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can do that right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Awesome. We'll bring this back next meeting. Any other thoughts on this one? Okay. So next, just going down the line, GoCo updates. I'm not sure if Miranda or Nikki wants to do that. I know you just sent a map out this last week.
Yeah, I can start with those two pieces. As we are working on what feels like the never-ending IGA.
Yeah.
Long story short, Boulder County provided me with a CAD file. We had Confluence Design do an overlay of their CAD file, only to realize that City of Boulder owns way more than we realized, and that their property pushes much further west. And so almost a large portion of the trail on that east side is on City of Boulder land.
Wow.
Doesn't mean anything. It just means that we're all memorializing in this IGA that understanding that so much of this is in fact on their property. So that was just an FYI, so everyone can see the true boundary lines. But the other thing that came up is kind of a long debate about the sign language in the current IGA, and just needing to understand what type of signage above and beyond what has already been discussed, which is, of course, our interpretive signs. And we've met with City of Boulder about like kind of those like leave no trace signs. Is there any other signage that we anticipate putting up in the Barker Meadow Park area?
Like on their land or on just anywhere?
On their land and kind of our land. You know, I think that it would just be good to know just in general what type of signage you expect in the future, because our concern with the language as it's written right now, you know, our concern with the IGA as a whole, right, is that City of Boulder has way more control than Nederland.
Yeah.
And just continue to have some concerns with the way in which this section of the IGA is structured. But in order to assess whether or not this is appropriate language or not, we really need to have a general idea of what type of signage, if any, we expect in the Barker Meadow Park area, City of Boulder or Nederland.
Wayfinding.
What's
I
that?
imagine that once the wayfinding.
Okay. Okay. Other, just a list will be good. I mean, you don't have to like get too specific because of course it's the future and you never know, but anything else that comes to mind? Do you expect wanting more interpretive signage in the future? Do you think we're fine?
So far, what do we have is like, I assume there's just normal park signs, right? Like this is the name of the park. Like, is that on the list already?
No, it's not actually, but it should be. Yeah.
Nikki, do you want to go over what we have right now? I don't even know what we're in, because we're obviously the interpretive sign, but what else do we have?
We have the two interpretive signs, and then all the rest of the signs. I haven't been planning anything on Barker property, or I mean on Boulder property, or even anything close to that. So like the Gercio area will have a bike parking area, and then I would love to put up a new sign that says Barker Meadows Park. But I haven't been planning anything on City of Boulder, and I know the DDA has been doing a lot of work with their wayfinding stuff, but I don't even know where they're at with that.
I think where it gets a little tricky. So the code here, what they have here is Nederland may install signage along the park trail connections on Boulder property at its discretion. Nederland agrees to consult with Boulder on specific content. So where it got a little tricky is it felt like a bit like they could install whatever they wanted.
Yeah, elsewhere in the
on
park.
our property, but like we had to make sure we had to consult them on theirs, and they are not budging on this. And so but it sounds like what you're saying is even the wayfinding, Nikki, would be solely on our property, or do you see anything being on the trail itself on their property?
Well, if we know that that's City of Boulder property, I propose that we don't put anything on it. That, even our signs, when eventual amphitheater comes in, that those signages would stay on Town of Nederland property. Am I lagging? I must be lagging.
No.
You are lagging a little bit, I guess, while this language sucks, like just full transparency, I think it's ridiculous. Is it worth delaying? Can y'all live with it? Like, do you hate it?
What possible reason would the city of Boulder care what signage we put on the trails up here? It's completely illogical.
Well, and why would they need to put more than one sign that identifies Barker Reservoir as a City of Boulder water supply?
Are they chomping at the bit to put these signs
by
up?
24 inches? Like, that's big.
They're very passionate about this sign. The whole meeting took a weird turn. They're very passionate about these signs. Yeah, I mean, this was like they were not willing to budge on this language at all, and Attorney Madsen wasn't having it because she does not feel that it has Nederland's interest. It's really like,
right. It feels like it should be like it should be at least even, but yeah,
I think that's where Attorney Madsen was just wondering, like, what kind of signage do we think we would want, and where is our, how, without knowing that answer, because that's what they asked me in the meeting. I was like, well, I don't know. Without having a general idea of what type of signage we would want on their property, it is hard to keep kind of going round and round about this signage language.
If they want to get serious about maintaining the trails that they supposedly own, then maybe their opinion on this would matter even slightly.
That's a big ask.
I say we put our signs where we want them, and if they want to come dig them up, I guess that's their prerogative. It's on its face ridiculous.
It's weird that they say that they want to be able to install signs on Netherlands property elsewhere in the park as determined necessary.
Yeah, this is
necessary.
That's odd.
Necessary, is it? It's obviously not necessary at all. It's a public service that a parks board provides. It's not necessary. Nonsense.
Yeah. I do have a problem with that part, Miranda. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they can't install signs on Nederland property. To me, that's a non-starter. And then
absolutely not.
And then if the kind of signs that we're going to install are going to be interpretive signage, wayfinding signs, probably trail maintenance signs, trail closed signs, trail open signs, all sorts of things that I would just put the whole gamut of potential signs that we could need at any given moment and just put that in the language.
Like maybe GoCo will require a sign saying this park was funded by GoCo. Put that in. Volunteer
like I imagine like signs throughout, like the little musical area, like installed by the town of Nederland,
exactly,
right? Like
sign near there.
Potential adopt a trail signs if people decide to adopt those trails.
Sure.
Okay. So, and did I hear you all correctly, though, that you really do not support this, and understandably do not support this language related to the deemed, determined necessary
Yeah.
language, and that they must consult with us prior to installing on our property. It was weird. It was so weird when we were like trying to like get equity here, and it was like not happening. And then their legal team got really pissed off, and then Jennifer got kind of pissed off. It was quite the meeting because they couldn't understand why we would have such a problem with this section of the IGA.
Yeah, like I think
a marathon.
They don't need signs on our property, I think, is kind of
What are
a
you
non-starter.
put a sign in the middle of the amphitheater area?
Yeah, we won't put signs
No.
on their city, and they don't put signs on ours. But if the IGA, it does make sense to have something about signage in there to protect both parties, because you can use a sign and use a big arrow and point to someone else's property from yours and say something stupid about it, and maybe both parties should have protection against that, and that I can understand. But they should have no signs on our property. We won't have any signs on theirs. And we can list the gamut of signs and at the end do exactly what they said or other signs as determined necessary by the town of Nederland.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
Right,
if you run into real problems, I do not have a problem sending an email to a few Boulder City Council members to tell them that their staff are being ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this has definitely been, I feel
Yeah.
like I've been working on this IGA for 2 years now. It is a marathon of an IGA. Yep.
Got a good idea for a sign.
And what's hard is like, as with a lot of things kind of with Boulder City or county, it's like they get started and then they like disappear for months and then they're like, hey, we should talk about this. And it's like, yeah, we should. So hopefully we're back on track to having consistent meetings and communication about this. But it was my duty to get your feedback and bring it back to them. So that's my piece. And my other thing, I guess why I asked Jesse to put this on the agenda was, I'm sure you all know the town got a ton of heat when Frozen Dead Guy Days chose to not hold their event next year. And I think in some circumstances, we're unfairly attacked, and that's why we released the press release we did. That was just like, here's the letter, here's the facts, here's what it is. I think my only ask is just as across the board as a board to have our back as staff, and if there's frustration or confusion or you too are upset or don't understand, to like seek out us. I feel like we were having to navigate a lot of comments on social media, and just kind of my feeling was like, we're all a phone call away. Like if there's something that there's not understanding, and not to make it seem like there's this rift between PROSAB and staff. And if there is one, I'd love to open up the conversation right now to hear what those concerns might be, or where we've struggled to ensure we're maintaining strong communication, but just would ask, especially in those like really kind of volatile moments, that there isn't this understanding of like, we're all in this together and we cannot afford additional damage to Gershio. That is just the reality. It doesn't mean that Barker Meadow Park is like never again for events, but we will never finish the grant if we continue to allow substantial damage. And so, I just wanted to see, if people have questions about where we are with the GoCo, if they have questions about the Frozen Dead Guy Days and what came of that, and just kind of keep the doors open to seeing how people are feeling.
Yeah. No, I definitely appreciate that, and I really appreciated the town releasing the. I've been calling it an after action report, but I don't think that's the terminology that you all use. But I did really appreciate the transparency around that and sort of standing up for the town's perspective in terms of protecting our parks and our assets and the work that our town crew does. And I thought that was pretty awesome to like speak out and be clear about that, because it really was, yeah. I mean, I also love Frozen Dead Guy Days, and I realized that there's like a tension, right? Like with needing to protect our assets and our parks and not, kind of get rolled over. So I just wanted to let you know, Miranda, that I really appreciated you releasing that. And I am also super curious to know what the latest is with the GoCo timeline. So I feel like I'm not quite sure where that is. So I would love to hear about that, but also would love to hear what other people have to say.
One thing is like I would like definitely. I don't think that PROSAB recommended that Gershio can no longer host festivals. I think that was a misinterpretation on the behalf of the Frozen Dead Guy Day organizers. They said that in part of their press release that town had said Gershio was off limits for the future. As far as I know, that's not something we ever said.
No, and some feedback I got in I like after action report. We didn't call it that, but some feedback I got was that the letter wasn't very clear because the letter at the end says Gershio is not available. What it says like something. The line says for the 2023 event, and then one of the bullet points says Gershio is not available for use. So to me, it was like clear it was tied to 2023, but you take that bullet point and you separate it out from the header, then yes, it makes it look like Gershio is not available for ever again. And so I do think, and one of my challenges with Sarah, when I spoke to Sarah, I said one of my challenges was their press release, in my opinion, picked apart bits and pieces of that document. And that's why I was like, you know what, out it goes. Everyone needs to see it in its raw form so people know. But yes, I think we could have done a better job in that language to say, this is a 2023 only situation. And so I do acknowledge maybe some better wording, but I agree. Yes, Jesse, there was no point, and nor do as town staff, we didn't say it will never be used again. We just need a year hiatus.
Yeah.
And that was made clear last year, right? So
Yeah.
this is the thing. What we are dealing with is bad actors who are, frankly, I mean, Miranda's being way too kind. They're liars and just general all-around scoundrels.
Amen.
That have been angling to get Frozen Dead Guy Days out of Nederland for quite some time now, and wanting to use the town government as their excuse for quite some time now. It wouldn't have mattered what letter Miranda wrote to them. It would have been picked apart. It wouldn't have mattered what town said. Anything that town put in writing would have been ripped to shreds and put on social media to make town look bad. That was always the plan. It's been on the agenda for quite some time now. None of this was new. All of this was old information. I worked very hard, as many others did, to make Frozen Dead Guy Days understand that town supported their event. And they claimed they were professional event organizers and they shouldn't have to pay a $10,000 deposit because look at all these safety measures that they were going to have in place. But what happened? The first thing they did was run over a fence and they tore up the field and didn't put any of the measures in place that they said that they would put in. They're not professionals. They're scammers. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. And really, I don't think they can be defended. And I'm it's a shame that it comes out this way on social media, but that's frankly the reality.
It's true. We even offered to help them to organize the events to have, shut down East Street and First Street and throw the events off on East Street and First Street in a smaller scale. We offered, to try and help them to make the event, and they turned us down. So I went to them in June and said, hey, if you guys are going to do the event, you need to get your application in right now. And they said, nope, no way. And said, okay, well, the language says this. And they said, nope, no way. So then they threw us under the bus a few months later on all the news channels. So
and not only that, but
I agree with you.
They were very literally going to get financial support for a for-profit enterprise from the town government to do this festival, right? In the form of support from the DDA, and I even personally offered to advocate for putting a line item in the town budget for it. And this is the response that we get. This is the reaction that we get. So, the narrative that somehow town fucked up in any way, I think, is complete nonsense.
But just to go back to a question about the timeline. I feel like that's separate to Frozen Dead Guy Days. I don't like Frozen Dead Guy Days is his own thing. I have my own personal frustrations with the deadlines not being made, and that's just because I've been fielding a lot of questions from people. People come to, I had a person this week coming to me asking about the who was involved in the interpretive sign development, and she was like, where are the signs? Did that not happen in the end? So I'm constantly having to answer these questions about why hasn't this happened? Why hasn't this happened for the GoCo? So I guess that's my
and Jesse, we had a meeting. And I saw your frustration on Facebook, and I was frustrated about that.
Yeah.
But
know.
I told you in the meeting with Sam and Miranda that my timeline for that GoCo grant was completely thrown out of the water with the 2021 Frozen Days event. The entire budget line for hiring volunteers, or not hiring volunteers, but hiring the teams, all of that budget was blown because Frozen Days destroyed all of the work that we did. That Cat actually had a hand in. And so our timeline was completely thrown off by that. Then this year I have 3 staff members trying to build a $284,000 grant, and we had redone the timeline. Now, I'm at a point here now where we've made a lot of the purchases, everything's purchased. The summer was rainy every day. We couldn't compete with that. Can't pour concrete in the rain. So yeah, my timeline got thrown off, but a lot of that was that I couldn't hire people to help me complete the projects.
Yeah. No, I think you did an excellent job. Like, your explanation was like right on par with the meeting that you and I and Sam had. I think you did a great job kind of explaining that. And there's been other holdups, like the supplies and shipments and delays in shipping and materials, and then increasing costs. So I try and relate that as best I can.
I think one of the concerns is, why we brought this up is just seeing that response that was like, I too don't know what's going on when we're all an email or a phone call away. So it's like, I guess my ask in the future is, the community members are out there being like, what's going on? Like, just call us. Because within minutes, we could tell you what's going on. And then the response on social media could be like, great question. Here's what's happening. Instead of like, you're right, this is so frustrating. And that's where we feel divided with boards at times, when it's like, can you just ask? And if we need to do a better job of communicating, we of course will, but I would rather see people seek out the information and respond with that and empowering staff versus using social media as a means to almost at times turn against staff to try to like gain momentum or whatever that looks like.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna have to disagree with you on that. I just don't. I think I am disappointed that we've missed all the deadlines last year and this year, and I'm allowed to feel that disappointment.
Yeah, but it's very demoralizing when you put it on Facebook and
it's very demoralizing when you put in thousands of hours on a volunteer project to not see that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Agreed.
So I think PROSAB does an excellent job at supporting town staff. I'm so proud of us all.
I think, I definitely understand, Jesse, what you're saying. And I don't mean this just about your specific comment. It's about, the whole thing in general, right? As town staff, I'm sure people know, like, we've been
just to let everyone know, my specific comment was that I was disappointed that the deadlines had been missed. That to clarify for people. That was
so I think for us, it's just an acknowledgement. Like, we get beat up pretty heavily on social media. It's usually not very positive about town staff, and so I just I guess where for me in seeing that, why I reached out was just like, okay, hear you loud and clear, what can we do better? We obviously did update the calendar, we pushed the calendar out on our website, so Peter put it out on social media as are you curious where we're at with the GoCo grant, so people could see the updated calendar. I definitely understand that frustration, but trying to get ahead of that communication the best we could, we wanted to be transparent with the community of like, here is the new update.
So to this person who came in and asking about why the interpretive signs weren't installed this summer, like, what would be a good answer?
Nikki, I'm going to turn that over to you if you're there.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I'm there. That would be just lack of staff and lack of days that were dry enough to pour concrete. We had set in 4 benches and I had a goal of setting in 10, and then we lost another staff member. So that's the
Yeah.
only thing I have to say. I expect a lot more help from other staff and didn't get it. And, you know, my expectations were high, and unfortunately, I was not able to corral my own staff into and you know, into getting things done the way I wanted them to be done either. Because I am really wanting
I
this
know, I
project
know
done
you're
as well.
frustrated, and I'm absolutely understanding and like full support of you and town staff. Like I know you're dealing with so much.
Yeah, I think that there's two parallel conversations really going on here, and one is that you know, having kind of casual social interaction and being able to say things about how you feel about stuff in a private capacity, you know, is reasonable. Unfortunately, the other side of it is that these comments get weaponized against town staff on a regular basis, and so town staff are just super sensitive to them, right? And so it's really two things that should be completely separate and shouldn't actually affect each other as much as they do. But unfortunately, in the social environment that we're in, that's what happens. You know, my position on this: everybody get the hell off Facebook. What a dumpster fire of a platform.
And let me just maybe really quickly, I think I totally agree, right? The power of social media and your own use. I think where I struggle is when people are tagged to respond in their town capacity, a PROSAB member, a SAB member, a planning commission, whatever. And then if that's an opportunity to tag me, to tag someone else and be like, great question. This is actually, let's have town of Nederland is on all these Facebook groups. So like tag the town of Nederland and let us respond, because where, you know, just if I can, Jesse, just very bluntly about this incident, it's like you were speaking as you were being asked as the representative of PROSAB. And so it's no longer then private when it's in that capacity. And so that's where my ask would be, let town staff defend ourselves, right? Everyone is allowed to be frustrated with us, but we are the ones who have the answers. So let us be the ones who share that and know it. I think to Nikki's point, they're not great answers, right? No one wants to say, because of lack of staffing, you know, this is where we're at, because it feels like a broken record that we're constantly saying that. But I just feel like those are opportunities for us to, as the people executing the grant, to share that.
And I do think, Eric, what you said was very well said. I am ultra sensitive to what I see on Facebook after 8+ years of dealing with negativity posted on Facebook. And right before the Frozen Days thing, we had the pedestrian bridge in Lakeview Drive. We're thrown under the bus on Facebook about that. So when I do see the negative stuff all over Facebook, and it's constant, I mean, it gives me an anxiety attack. I like PTSD whenever and somebody mentions Frozen Days. I'm like, shoot me now. But yeah, well said, Eric. I am ultra sensitive. I recognize that about myself, and it when I see that kind of stuff, it takes me straight to the feeling of demoralized, and I don't even want to try anymore. But that's my own sensitivity from years of accumulation.
No, and it does have a real material impact, and you know, we are losing town staff. We are hemorrhaging people in many ways because of the negative environment that is produced for them in town. And I think it is something that we need to work on somehow as a community. I don't have the solution for it other than banning Facebook. Maybe a Facebook firewall that town can put up. I don't know.
Just communication and transparency always seems to help.
Yeah, I think this just underscores, if I recall, I don't know the timing of your comment, Jesse, but if I recall the meeting, no one from town staff was at the meeting and no one was there to answer your questions about why various deadlines had been missed, right? So I think perhaps if someone from town staff had been at that meeting, we wouldn't have been as confused. But I remember leaving that meeting, we didn't have any answers and we were wishing someone had been there to give us answers. So I think that just underscores the importance of engaging and trying to have someone when possible.
Yeah, that's when Jesse and Sam came to Miranda and we had a private meeting, and I was able to update them on the timeline and all of those things. And then, you know, Miranda's at every dang meeting. I think Miranda's eternally meeting.
I don't know how you guys do all these
But
meetings.
I guess that was my
especially
ask.
when
Oh, sorry, Nikki, go ahead.
it's okay. You know, it's just it is we do our best, and if we're not there at a meeting, we would, you know, like we did last time, had a private meeting with Sam and Jesse. You know, those kinds of things I would always be willing to entertain. But yeah, go ahead, Miranda.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that, like, you know, and I've missed you all. Like, I've missed quite a few PROSAB meetings, which is never my goal. And to Nikki's point, I try to do a really great job about being at every meeting, which is, you know, 10 plus meetings a month. And so, but it's going to happen. And I guess what I don't want to see is that means that communication is stunted and assumptions are being made just because we're not there. Because I say this time and time again, I would argue people know how to get a hold of us 800 different ways. We're an email, we're a phone call, we're a text message away to say, hey, we talked about this and we're confused. Can you at least provide a written comment to PROSAB or whatever it might be? I don't think our presence not being there means that assumption made when it is. I think we leave it we make it very easy to communicate with town staff.
I would just like to say that it's good for us all to keep in mind that the people combined here are all we have. That our efforts together are the entirety of what's keeping parks together in this town. And I appreciate the efforts of everyone involved. And I know that I have had a very short temper on some things, which has not contributed to our overall health as an organization. But I deeply appreciate everyone's efforts. And I think that we all need to just keep that in mind. No one else is coming. It's just us.
And just like
that motion.
One of the things I had been worrying about was because one of the grant kind of requirements was the criteria of compelling urgency of the project, and that was one of the things that we had to like meet the criteria for. And so I was, before we met too, I was feeling like we weren't exactly showing that the compelling urgency in terms of the completion dates. So I was concerned about those optics of multiple extension requests, and that just made me super uncomfortable in terms of future grants. Yeah, I think that was kind of my main concern with that. But then since then, like, I've done some research too, and it doesn't have to be completed in March. So even though it says the work, like, we just have the purchasing should be done by March, but we've got time to complete it. So I feel a lot better about that. I think
what I would say is as the people who have met with Matt, who is our GOCO representative, even when I asked for that initial extension, he was like, and if you need another one, no problem. And so, you know, of course that was never the goal, right? But things happen. There was generally support. And so, and I do get it. We weren't at this meeting to answer that or to share that. But, you know, I just, right now what I'm seeing is like, just, you know, assumptions are just such relationship and communication killers. And so I'd love to get away from that and just, you know, there's so much happens behind the scenes, right? We are hired for a reason to do a ton of work on behalf of PROSAB and then, you know, be able to communicate. So if that's so happy to do that more, to make sure that if Nikki and I are missing, there is a representative here who can speak to projects and do things like that so that you can feel comfortable with the work that's happening on all the other days of the month besides this one when we have the opportunity to update you.
And please know, Jesse, that every day this summer, every day I said to the guys, you know, Curcio is the priority. Curcio is the priority.
I know.
Well, we also have Chipeta Park. We have the rink. We have trash. We have
trails.
Fire mitigation that needs to happen. Trails that need to be done. And of course, when it's raining, every trail and every sidewalk's getting washed out every day. So it was with a staff of 3. It's it's virtually impossible to do everything that we do.
I know.
And on top of, on top of. So I did say every day this summer, Gercio is the priority. So every day this
folks.
summer.
I got a hard stop at 9. I have to go.
Thanks, CT.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, I think, I know we need to wrap it up soon, but, I think it was really good for folks to kind of share their perspectives on this conversation and be transparent about, both frustrations and questions and that sort of thing. Because, I think that can only make us stronger working together going forward. And so I think let's just all keep in mind what we've shared on this meeting and, how we can, keep in touch even more closely going forward, and understanding that, like things will happen and it won't always be perfect. And I'm just,
and like you said, Kat, as a board, I expect us to disagree on things. Like, this is a governmental agency, like we should disagree on things. That's what makes a healthy democracy, and we should be okay with that. Like, the unity doesn't have to be in our agreement of ideas. Like, we should be able to kind of express our difference of opinions and still be okay with each other.
I agree in this format, yes, but my ask would be to the community, we are a united front. That does not work with the community watching town staff and board members not agree. It just, I totally value that very much, Jesse, but that is my concern, is like what goes outward should be a reflection of what our final decision is, whether we all agree or not. Whatever the majority decision is what goes out.
Well said.
Anything else? Otherwise, we just have one more thing. Okay, this is your thing, Miranda, too, or Nikki, maybe PROSAB membership.
It's kind of both of us. So we met with Rink and Tennis and some good meetings about, 1/1 is the takeover date for both. So just getting things situated. They are, of course, kind of disbanding their control of both assets, but want to make sure that they're involved in future discussions. And in an effort to save Nikki from having to go to 3 different boards, we'd really like to ask PROSAB to consider amending your bylaws to become a board of 9, and then set aside those 2 positions to be one for Rink and one for Tennis. And that would always be a requirement that those 2 positions are filled by each organization. And we wanted to see your thoughts.
My thoughts on it are immediately that's what I wanted from the beginning, but I would personally prefer that they serve on the board ex officio rather than as regular members. And meaning that they would serve on the PROSAB board by nature of being, by nature of their office, by being delegated to that board from their respective organizations, but that they wouldn't necessarily be voting members of PROSAB.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's, I appreciate that. What I will say is that I think maybe in speaking on their behalf, they do want to say, right? They want to, like, if all of a sudden we're going for a GoCo grant because we're going to redo Rink and Tennis, they're going to want to be voting members in that decision or that design. Happy to just bring that. If the consensus of this board, though, is that you want them to be kind of just in that advisory type capacity, I just know this was very important to them to be able to have a say in kind of things related to Rink, Tennis, or maybe Eric, it's just that they can like vote. They have a voting capacity when it is related to that asset. But sorry, Kat.
Can I ask Eric why?
Well, because that's a very large number of people, but also, to be voting members of a town board, or I don't think there are any other town boards that big. But the other reason of it being that it's a small pool to draw from, whereas PROSAB comes from a very large pool, and for the rest of its members, and there's a sort of they end up kind of outweighing the other residents in a lot of ways if they are voting members. So my thinking on it was that they would bring recommendations to PROSAB from rink and from tennis, and that PROSAB would consider those recommendations. And so when we were voting on anything to do with rink and tennis, they would have their official recommendation to us, and then we would pass on the recommendation to the BOT. That's how I'd like to see it work. I mean, I'm open to them being voting members. I'm not going to be like dead set against it, but it doesn't really make sense to me that two specific organizations get to fill seats on an advisory board in town.
I think we would need to work through what the rules and regulations would be around forming quorum and that kind of stuff as well. Like if one or both of them weren't able to attend a given meeting, what would happen then with regards to topics related to their organizations?
Well, for me, yeah, the way that I think of it is that we would probably choose to move such a discussion off the agenda if none of them could be there. But you know that if they were serving on the board ex officio, you know, they would be kind of expected to show up. I mean, in the same way that we are, and it would be on them. And you know, these agendas are set in advance, so it's not like we would just ambush decision making on rink and tennis. But fundamentally, they are town assets. There's town money involved. You know, we're representatives of the town as a whole, not of two particular nonprofit boards. So that for me, process-wise, in terms of democratic process and the way I think government should operate, they should serve as non-voting members of PROSAB and bring recommendations from their own boards to us.
Alex, thoughts?
Do they want this? Just clarifying, like they want the 2 seats, it's coming from them? Yeah.
Rink specifically wants to have a say in specifically in what happens with rink. And yeah, it does have a lot to do with future development of the rink property.
I mean, personally, my issue would be timeliness of meetings. So the more board members there are that attend meetings, the longer the meetings take, because we have to circle through everybody's opinion. So last meeting, there was 4 board attendees compared to the usual 7. So obviously you can have a shorter meeting because it takes less time to circulate through each person. 9 members seems a lot, especially when they're not talking about rink or tennis issues. Like I feel like we should elevate their voices, during a particular rink or tennis associated discussion. And then they could maybe attend the meetings at necessary intervals with their updates. That would be my kind of feelings towards it.
That's in the same way that everyone's always welcome, right? That they'd always be welcome to a board meeting because everyone is, right? It's a public thing. So
right. And then what if their board members in the future are not able to attend PROSAB meetings? Then we're stuck with like this bylaw thing that makes our board defunct.
That's what sort of concerns me. I wouldn't want
violation of our bylaws.
Yeah, I wouldn't, but we'd have to change the bylaws to have them on anyway. So yeah, it seems to me I prefer those that we kind of guarantee that they'll have a say as a result of their, as I keep saying, ex officio position on the board, but that they're not part of quorum or voting members of PROSAB in general.
Yeah, I think it's maybe late in the evening to try to figure this one out. Nikki and Miranda, do you have a desired timeline by which we need to make this decision?
Well, Rink wants to have a memorandum of understanding of kind of how this transition is going to work. And they want that, of course, in place before 1/1. So talking about it next meeting is fine, but then a decision needs to be made. And I don't know if you would want representatives from those organizations here to advocate for what they're asking for. But we definitely need.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would propose that we invite representatives from those folks to the December meeting, and we put on the agenda that we're going to have a vote on the topic after a discussion, and try not to force the issue tonight.
And any of that's gonna have to be approved by the BOT anyway, right, Miranda?
Not the MOU.
If we change the bylaws of PROSAB,
Oh, if you change the bylaws, yes.
Yeah.
You know, I guess I don't, and maybe Nikki, tell me where you're at. You know, your next meeting is cutting it pretty tight for us to get an MOU in place that all parties are comfortable with. And I get the late
Yeah,
thing, totally understand
I
and
think-
respect that.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get that. And I also think like I definitely would want a minute to think about it. And yeah, it's late and I'm just not sure that we're really in a place to make a decision on this tonight.
So it's going to be like
I would
the Super
say
Bowl.
then
We should print 2 MOUs, and then when one wins, we throw the other one away and we put on the other hat.
I would definitely say that if you're going to postpone any kind of decisions tonight, that you make a goal of coming to a conclusion at the next meeting. The rink and tennis are going to be a huge piece of the Parks Department, so it is important that they get included in these meetings.
So they're going to continue having boards.
Yeah, so that
They
can be the
have their
fund-
on boards, yeah.
Yeah, and they're going to be the funding arm for future GoCo grants. So them being 501c3s, you know, and I think that was one of the things. Is one of the conversations was like, does Nikki now have to attend every board meeting, or can there be that some sort of representation here? So it's like a one-stop shop. You know, that's obviously, I think everyone knows, like, these 2 assets is a huge undertaking, which we're very excited about because it's how Parks kind of was created. But they ask of Nikki to, you know, just kind of spend all of her time navigating this and then having to spend all of her evenings at multiple boards. I want to be mindful of that's not a great use of her time. So whatever capacity, whether they're an official PROSAB member or not, I would love to see it where this is the one stop for Nikki, and it's like this in the BOT, and she doesn't have to spend her time elsewhere.
I completely agree, and I'm not advocating for
Unless I
anything
have to spend my time elsewhere.
I'm not advocating for anything other than that. I think that the bylaws should be changed and they should be formally added to have seats on PROSAB, but not as regular members is all I'm saying. More like liaisons from other boards.
Just to speak a little bit to timeliness of meetings, I know, Brian, you have some concerns about that. I know, obviously, we can hold shorter meetings if we also hold 2-hour special meetings to discuss agenda items in detail within each month, as well as our regular PROSAB meeting. But I would rather hash out as much as we can in one meeting rather than holding 2 meetings a month.
I know that I've complained about this, but I'm also not stepping up to do anything about it. I think that ultimately, if we had the type of agenda that had timelines involved with the agenda and someone who would volunteer to be like the secretary to say, all right, we've reached the conclusion
Shut
of
up.
this topic.
Stop talking.
Let's
Stop
move
talking,
along.
Brian. Sorry, you're finished. That's it.
Exactly.
Stop. Shut. Zip it.
That works. I have been in board meetings where that does work, and we could adopt that practice if we so desired. But as I mentioned, I'm not stepping up to do it myself, so I guess I'll live with what we have.
No, I mean, I think we're pretty close to all the other boards as far as timeliness of meetings.
Yeah, no, too long.
Too many, too long, too much unpaid time.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
I kind of need
Yes, sir.
to jet. So are we wrapping up?
Yeah, I will
soon,
put
or-
this on the next for an action item. The membership.
Great.
And
And
ask
can
those
can we invite?
board members to attend.
Yeah,
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 sorry,
yeah.
Brian.
Yes, ask those board members to attend. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And for their sake and ours, we could do all that within the first 20 minutes of the next meeting and
Good call.
say thanks for coming by. You can you can go now.
I suggest, I
Like
mean,
at the end of public comment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Miranda, is there, or Nikki, is there any chance that you could put me in touch with the 2 folks who want to be on PROSAB, and maybe I could have a conversation with them in advance so that we can figure out what exactly it is that they want out of that relationship?
We actually don't know who's the representative who would want to be on PROSAB, right? So it would be hard to do so. We can put you on the email that we send to them, just saying, hey, can someone come and talk about this? And to Nikki's point, it's definitely more of a rink than it is. I think Darren from pickleball tennis would be fine not sitting here, but rink is has a larger stake here just because of the nature of their operations are much more involved than pickleball tennis.
Got it.
Yep. And their next meeting is tomorrow night at Lori's house, which I don't know where Lori lives, but that's when their next meeting is, just to discuss the rink assets and what it is exactly they'll be turning over to the town.
Well, don't go to that meeting, Nikki, if you can help it.
I told them I have to well, it's not a lie. I have to babysit my granddaughter. I have to do me on an occasion. So
Yeah, Friday night.
Yep. All right, I move that we adjourn if we're done.
Second that.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Have a good night.
Everybody, take care.
Thanks.